What is our first victim for this evening?
Gary Flinn.
Ladies and gentlemen, would you please welcome Flint's very own historian, Mr. Gary Flinn.
Yay,
Thank you. Now, earlier this month, I was at Totem Books, where two local authors who wrote history books, including Larry Gustin, who wrote 3 books. One during the bicentennial year of 1976 called Picture History of Flint, another book about David Buick, and this book, by the way, got signed copies of all 3, called Billy Durant, Creator of General Motors. In fact, I picked up this book at Totem Books while Larry Gustin was there. And what I'm going to read was inspired by Gustin's appearance. In fact, you could call it a Cliff Notes version of the Billy Durant book. It's chapter 6 of my Hidden History of Flint book, which is available most anywhere, including the trunk of my car, with a cover price of $21.99.
Only $21.99?
Yes. And I also have my first book, which is also easily available, Remembering Flint, Michigan. That cover price is $19.99.
Only $19.99?
Yep. So here's the chapter, which I called Billy Durant, A Riches to Rags Story. The development of Flint into a major city can be credited to one man, William Crapo Durant, who ran the largest carriage company in the city and founded 2 car companies whose products are still being made today. A born salesman and wheeler dealer, Durant took major risks that led to big successes and eventually his downfall. Durant was the grandson of lumber baron and Michigan Governor Henry H. Crapo. He was born on December 8, 1861 in Boston to a banker who married one of Crapo's daughters, Rebecca. The marriage faltered, so Rebecca moved back to Flint with her 2 children. Following the death of her mother in 1875, Rebecca used her inheritance to buy a large home across from the then new Flint High School at the corner of Church and 2nd Streets. Durant dropped out of high school at age 17 in 1879 and went to work at the family lumber mill. Instead of getting an office or sales job, he was put to work stacking lumber for 75 cents a day. He supplemented his income by working as a clerk in a drugstore where patent medicine was produced. His interest in the medicine led to his giving up his mill and clerk jobs, and he began selling medicine to farmers around the area. Durant then turned to selling cigars for a local cigar maker, a born salesman. He was successful in selling the stogies, and the business expanded, or make that over-expanded, and lost money. Durant then worked for the local waterworks, where he made improvements that helped the utility business. He later went into real estate and construction. In 1885, Durant bought his own house and married Clara Miller Pitt. They had 2 children. In 1886, Durant took a ride in a horse-drawn, 2-wheeled road cart with a unique suspension that cushioned the bumps. It was made by the Coldwater Road Cart Company in Coldwater. Durant and J. Dallas Dorff bought the company and moved it to Flint, where it became the Flint Road Cart Company. In 1895, that company evolved into the Durant Door Carriage Company, which became the largest carriage company in the United States. In its peak year, 1906, it produced 56,000 vehicles. In 1904, Durant entered the motor vehicle business by taking over operations of the struggling Buick Motor Company and made it very successful. In 1908, Durant founded General Motors with Buick as a subsidiary of GM. Durant went on a buying spree, acquiring Oldsmobile of Lansing, Cadillac in Detroit, Oakland, which became Pontiac, various truck companies that merged into GMC, and numerous parts companies. He almost bought Ford, but couldn't get the financing. Also in 1908, Durant married a second wife, Catherine, after his divorce from Clara. In 1910, Durant found himself overextended, and the conservative Eastern bankers cut off additional financing during an economic downturn. Durant was forced to turn control of GM to the Eastern bankers to keep the company going and avoid bankruptcy. Undaunted, Durant began to lay the foundation for another car company. Durant acquired the Flint Wagon Works factories along West Kearsley Street and teamed up with noted race car driver Louis Chevrolet to form the Chevrolet Motor Company in 1911. Like David Buick had a few years before, Louis Chevrolet left the company following disputes with Durant, who wanted to compete with Ford with mass-market motor vehicles, while Louis Chevrolet desired to have his name on the line of luxury cars. The Chevrolet Motor Company became profitable, and that success allowed Durant to shake up the business world when the Chevrolet Company acquired control interest in GM, allowing Durant to take back control in 1916. This was a win-win for fast-growing Flint and the Chevrolet and GM stockholders, who suddenly became wealthy. Durant headed GM for 4 years before losing control of the company for the final time in 1920 during another economic downturn and losing a fortune trying to prop up GM's stock price. Durant lost control a few weeks before the landmark hotel bearing his name first opened. At the time Durant lost control, GM's new headquarters in Detroit was being built. It was first to be called the Durant Building, but it was renamed the General Motors Building after Durant lost control. You can still see the letter D inscribed in places on the facade at what is now the Cadillac Square Building. GM vacated it for the Renaissance Center in 1996. But Durant would not give up, and he founded Durant Motors in 1921. The following year, Durant broke ground on a new factory along South Saginaw Street between Atherton and Hemp Hill Roads to build the Flint. The Flint was a brand that competed with Buick, one of several product lines Durant Motors produced. The Star was the low-end line to compete with Ford's Model T, and the Eagle was the next step up. The Durant competed with Chevrolet. The Princeton competed with Oldsmobile, and the Locomobile competed with Cadillac. Durant also made Mason trucks. But Durant's Flint plant proved too large for the volume of business, so it was sold for $4 million to GM. For years, it was known as Fisher Body Plant No. 1 and made bodies for Buick. Today, it is the site of the Great Lakes Technology Center. The plant's closing in 1987 was part of the basis for Michael Moore's documentary film, Roger and Me. The 1929 stock market crash and the resulting Great Depression were devastating for Durant Motors and for Billy Durant. Durant Motors folded in 1931, and Billy Durant declared bankruptcy in 1936, listing his debts at $914,231 and assets, his wardrobe, at $250. In 1940, Durant founded North Flint Recreation, a bowling alley not far from the Buick complex he had developed decades before. He had big plans for a scaled-down business, but must have pained his friends, and his foes relished the fact that the 79-year-old Durant, the man who made Flint a major automotive center, was running a bowling alley. GM President Alfred Sloan did give Durant and his second wife, Catherine, a small pension. Durant expanded his business by adding a restaurant, but time was running out on him. On October 2, 1942, Durant suffered a stroke at his room in the Durant Hotel. He spent a month and a half recuperating at Hurley Hospital before leaving Flint for the last time on December 15, 1942, for his New York City apartment. His health gradually declined, and he died on March 18, 1947, at age 85. He was buried at Woodlawn Cemetery in New York. In 1958, at the developing Flint Cultural Center, Durant Plaza was dedicated to his memory. It is located between the Sloan Museum and Whiting Auditorium. For further information about Billy Durant, read the book Billy Durant, Creator of General Motors by Lawrence R. Gustin. Now, before I wrap things up, I'd like to give a call out. Of course, Mark Funnyman Taylor, like myself, is a fan of the horror science fiction movie series Svengoolie, which is airing on MeTV around the country and aired locally on WGRT Channel 12.2 if you have a TV antenna, and is also available to cable TV subscribers on Comcast or Charter. But the reason I wanted to talk about is the next Svengoolie, this is going to be a good one, is Straight Jacket, starring Joan Crawford. And I posted this joke on the official Spenguli Facebook page. And the joke is, what's scarier than Joan Crawford with an axe? Joan Crawford with a wire coat hanger.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Because she used to beat her.
Yes, her daughter Christina it was the subject of the book Mommy Dearest.
Yeah.
And before I leave, I should mention that with warmer weather approaching, the book festivals are starting to emerge, and I'll be at the Flint Festival of Books, which will be Saturday, March 30th at the Flint Farmers Market, along with other local authors. So I hope to see you there, and watch the Hidden History of Flint Facebook page for more news, along with any stories of local interest involving Flint or Flint history. And I thank you very much.
Haunted stories of Flint. Yeah. You could do a whole book of that.
Ladies and gentlemen, give him a hand one more time, please. You know, Gary, you were talking about cars earlier. Did you know that they're building a car now called a Rose Canarly? Yeah, it rolls on one side of the road and Canarly get out the other.
That was funny.
And I guess I can hardly figure that one out either. All right.